got the tree down, and this is a follow-on from part 2, hung up trees. We've got the tree down, we're going to have to cross-cut it. Cross-cutting is fair enough. You've got the compression and the tension. Now in this case, the log is supported that end and that end. So if you were to cut from the top here, it would eventually do that. So therefore this is the compression and that's the tension underneath, because if you cut through the tension it opens up. So if you've got a three-dimensional mind, it's alright, but some people take quite a while to get their head round that. Just think, if I cut that, will it squeeze or will it open up? So if it squeezes, it's the compression, squeeze, compress. So we've got to cross-cut here, but I don't want to do standard cross-cutting on this video. This is about the boring technique, which doesn't really apply here because you could get a bar underneath there. So you could nick on the top by about 1 inch, and then you could just about get your saw under there and cross-cut up. But on this next length, you can't get your bar underneath. So we're going to do a demo there, and then we're going to do it there again. And just to make sure everything works right, is that underneath? No. I'm going to put this pole under here, so when it drops, at least it's on the pole. And so therefore this log will be supported either end. So let's get on with it. Now then, so this is the line here, because I've got my measuring pole there. So we'll do a nick on the top. But then how are we going to bore in? One of the recognised ways is to kneel down like this. But you're fairly close to the kickback zone, and what's more, you get your knees wet. And if you're in the woods all day, you don't want wet knees. So I think that is not quite so desirable as this method, where you go in like that. I've got my knee on the bottom of the saw. If it's going to kick, it's going to kick into the tree. So, and I'm not kneeling down, bending down. And if you're working in forestry, then every little operation costs time, and time is of the essence. So let's give it a go. So just to reiterate there, we cut down about 1 inch, then we went like this, supporting the saw till the nose disappears in, then through and down, and then what you've left is a hinge here. So keeping the saw in the cut, as soon as you come out the bottom, don't go all the way out, because that's just messing around. Just come out the bottom, you know it's come out straight up and cut through the hinge, and the tree just goes toof. So let's do it again. There's a gap underneath, so we're supported either end. So when it's cut, it will drop, and the compression's on the top. Hopefully you will have noticed that this sprang up. So therefore, even though it's supported here, the weight of that up there changed the compression and tension, but luckily it wasn't sufficient to make a problem out of it. But hopefully now you've got the idea. Nick on the top, through, down, and then back up to remove the hinge. You always do the nick on the top, because if you don't, as you're coming up, there's a tendency for the last bit to twist and it can trap your saw. So cut the top bit off first, about an inch. A lot of people go a quarter of the way through the tree, which makes life difficult because then there's not as much room for the boring cut. So you only want an inch. Hopefully this will make life easy and it'll keep your knees dry. You'll have noticed that this saw, when we were cutting, it was cutting very nicely and it was boring quite well. This is the follow-on from the observations about chains on the last video. This is a 325 pitch chain with chisel cutters, but if you notice the bar's wider, so that means that the kickback zone is bigger, but it also means that the chain doesn't bend so tight as it goes around the nose. The other thing is it's still got guard links, but they're quite small relatively speaking. I'm just going to bring in that 023 now that we used last time, and I've modified it slightly. See if I can just put it in front there. If you notice, the nose is a lot tighter, so therefore the chain is trying to knuckle round, so the back of the tooth has more of a tendency to try and stick into the wood, whereas on the wider nose, if you see there, the back of the tooth is still below the front of the tooth, whereas here the back of the tooth is higher than the front of the tooth. That's the consequence of the narrow nose. And if you see here the guard links, they were great big lumpy things, and I've removed some of that guard link and created a nice even slope rather than a big lump there, which will make it cut and bore better. Hopefully that has cleared up another few things with these occasional user Pico chains with the big guard links. Fine if you're just doing cross-cutting for firewood, safe as houses, but if you want to use them in a more professional manner, then the guard links can be a problem. You really want to buy ones with lesser guard links. The only reason you'd want to use these in a professional manner is if you're cutting light stuff, and of course with a 1.3mm gauge chain and the smaller teeth, of course the kerf is narrower, so therefore a smaller saw will drive the chain reasonably well, whereas if you put a larger chain on this small saw, it wouldn't be able to cope with it because it's trying to cut more wood out.